Okay, sweet. So welcome to the first live video that I've done that's just kind of like a 101 course, which is exciting. So most of the live videos that I've done for this group so far have been like 1 hour long that I've gone really deep on like one very specific topic because I like teaching in depth versus giving vague information. Nobody likes vague information. It's not helpful. So today's live is going to be a little different. Not that I'm giving you vague information, but that we're going to try to cover a lot very horizontally. And this video is really specifically for people who are just curious, like, how do you start? How do you start getting into elopement? So I get this question all the time. I see it probably every other day in this Facebook group. Every new member who joins, this is like the burning question on your mind. Like, hey, I love the idea of shooting elopements, but I have no idea where to start. This video is for those people, is for you guys. So the question, like, how do I get started photographing elopements? Like, what are the basics? How do I introduce myself to this whole thing? It's seeming really overwhelming to me. I'm seeing all these people doing it, but like, how do I get from where I am to where you guys are? So obviously, I'm not going to be able to teach every single thing that's in like my elopement photographer course to you right now in this 1 hour. But I'm going to give you a ton of value and a ton of really practical, actionable places to start. And so that is what we're going to do today. So I'm going to go over my story and kind of how I got to become an elopement photographer. And everyone, as you'll find, like has their own story. I think it's easy. And like when I started as a photographer, I really thought, okay, there's one way to do this. And I just need to figure out what that secret one way is. And then if I do it, then I can be successful too. So unfortunately, that's just not true, guys. There's not just one way to be successful. There's not one way to become an elopement photographer. There are many ways. So I'm going to give many strategies because everyone's goals here are a little bit different. People are living in different places. They have different markets. They are interested in shooting different kinds of elopements, guys. That's something that I really want to hit on the head here because there's not just one type of elopement. Like I love photographing adventurous destination elopements. That is just like one little slice of the elopement market. And not like everyone wants to hike 10 miles for their wedding day. Not everyone wants to travel to a country they've never been to for the day they get married. There are so many more people who want to elope in their backyard because it's meaningful to them, or on their grandparents' piece of property because it's meaningful to them, or the park that they walk their dog in with and met their partner in because they both had dogs and they like walking in this park and that's where they want to elope because that's where they met. That's super cool. So people want to elope because elopements are meaningful to them and they see it as a more meaningful way to get married than getting married than getting married at a big venue where hundreds of other couples have gotten married that they don't have any emotional connection to, guys. So side note, I'll get more into that later, but basically there are so many different types of elopements and there's so many different types of ways to be successful as an elopement photographer. So I'm going to share my story of how I got there. Secondly, in this video, I'm going to share about I am going to share about like the 4 most important things, like the 4 keys to becoming a successful elopement photographer. So these are the things that I have learned over the past 5 years of photographing elopements full time. Like these 4 things are like the four absolute necessities to being a successful elopement photographer. So I'm going to go over what those 4 things are. And then I'm going to give you guys actionable tips to get started, either if you have an existing business and you want to start transitioning towards elopements, or if you're just brand new and you have no idea where to start, I'm going to tell you where to start. So, and at the end, I'll answer some more questions. So if you have questions while I go through this, just like drop them in the chat. A bunch of people dropped questions in the post in the group earlier. So I'm trying to answer as much as I can in a very short amount of time. So like I said, I won't be able to like cover everything and give you every single secret tool, strategy, and insight in an hour-long video. It's just not physically possible. I'm going to give as much value as I can. But what I did do earlier this year and over the past year is I did create a completely comprehensive online course that does teach you everything that you need to learn to become an elopement photographer. And that course is called very creatively, the Elopement Photographer course. And I spent like the last year developing it. It was launched for the first time at the end of June this year. It was amazing, like so excited. So many people signed up, enrolled, and have been like digging into it, and it's super cool. So that course, if you haven't heard, is relaunching November 26th of this year. It's going to be available again for to enroll in it from November 26th to December 3rd. Really quick, I just want to clear up some confusion about the course. I've been getting DMs from people, especially who are newer to the group. They're like, wait, what? Why is it during Thanksgiving week? I have family stuff going on. I can't attend. Okay, no. So it's an online course. They are 29 pre-recorded videos of me teaching content live. And there's over 16 hours of content, but you don't have to dig into any of that. You don't have to watch it live. You don't have to be available for any of those days in that period from November 26th to December 3rd. You just have to sign up. You just have to enroll and like grab your spot to the course. And it's a do at your own pace online course, because again, everyone's in a different place here. Some people have existing businesses, and so their questions and like what they're going to get out of the course is different than someone who is completely new. Some have a lot of time right now to like dive in and watch all the videos and do the 60-page workbook and start the action plan and start getting inquiries now. And other people are like, man, I'm just like trying to get through my Christmas minis and I just got to finish that right now. And then I can dive in about it in a couple of weeks. So it's self-paced, and you can ask questions as you want in the VIP group. So I have a VIP group for this course. So besides this awesome group, there's another awesome group that's like small and super rad, and everyone asks questions and there's help and support each other. So if you have any questions that pop up as you go through this course, you just ask me in that group and I'm right there for you guys. I'm right there answering questions just like I answer questions in this group. Okay, so that's coming out. That has all the info that you're looking for if you're just curious, like, hey, like, how do I do all this? Like, that course will answer all of your questions. But back to the good stuff, back to like actually teaching you guys and give you some actionable tips. So cool. So let's start with my story. So I've shared like a little bit about it here and in a couple of other videos, but to just kind of recap, like, how did I get started in elopements? So I started taking photos, you know, like a lot of people do when they're pretty young. So I think I've had a camera in my hand since I was 12 years old. I've always just liked hanging out outside, taking photos. I, you know, took photos of everything when I first started. And I think that experimentation phase is a really important part of like figuring out who you are as a photographer and like what type of things that you shoot like really make you tick, like what makes your heart sing. And it's a really important phase to kind of figure that out. So if you've just picked up a camera, keep experimenting, keep playing around, shoot anything and everything. That is a really amazing place to start. So back to my story. Shot everything. I always loved the idea of shooting weddings, and I got to shoot my very first wedding when I was 17. So I was back in high school. It was my high school teacher's daughter. I don't even think they were going to have a wedding photographer. Super like low budget. He's a teacher. It was his daughter, and I was like, hey, I'm pretty good at taking photos. Like, I took photos for the yearbook, and I took all my friends' senior portraits, and I've been doing this for a while. So yeah, I think I can shoot a wedding. So I did. I photographed. That was my first wedding, and I loved it. Like, the images, in my opinion, turned out really great. I mean, I'm probably looking back at them now, I'd probably be like, oh gosh, but I photographed that wedding, and then I just kept getting referred to photograph a few more, you know, kind of friends from high school, and you know, some children of some of my old teachers and that kind of thing. So I continued to photograph weddings throughout college, and I actually went to college originally for engineering, which a lot of people don't know. But I took a little detour there because I didn't think that being a wedding photographer was like a sustainable full-time career. That seemed kind of far-fetched to me. Oh, how I've learned how that's not true. But that was what I thought when I was like 18. So I went to do a very sensible career and go learn engineering. I was good at it. I'm smart. I'm definitely a nerd and I could do it. All my family are engineers and doctors and lawyers. And so I figured this is the path for me. But I kept shooting weddings throughout these summers. So I would photograph, 3 here, 5 there, 7, 10. So I think by the time I was a junior in college, I was like shooting 10 weddings throughout the summer, which like felt like a lot to me. And then I, was going back to school. So I had this kind of interesting life of like this amazing creative outlet that made me so happy. I loved photographing weddings. I loved being a part of the day that a couple like says their vows to each other. That's always like been super magical to me. And but I really just decided, I made a decision. I made a commitment one day of like, I don't really want to be an engineer. I actually love what I'm doing in the summer so much more than what I'm doing this school year. And I don't want to be an engineer. So I decided, I committed to the idea of running my photography business full time and that would be my career once I graduated. So I switched over, did a marketing degree. So I did a business marketing degree in college. Best decision I ever made. I learned so much, soaked up every little knowledge nugget I possibly could, applied it to my business. I learned so much amazing theory about marketing and that there's all these answers out there, that it's not actually this vague, like, magic 8-ball, please give me an inquiry. That's like not what it's like. Like there's strategy, there's data, you can actually figure out where inquiries come from and how to get more of them. And I love that because I'm a super nerd. So it was like around the same time that I switched to a marketing degree, and I was shooting between 10 and 15 weddings that summer. And I was learning a lot about marketing and the power of of specialized branding and really polarized branding messages of finding a really specific targeted niche of people and how you can create a specialized high-end service like specifically for them, and how that's like a really successful marketing strategy. It's like, cool, that's awesome. Let me figure how does that work with my business? So at the same time, I got hired to photograph my very first elopement. How did I get hired for that first elopement? So I live here in Colorado, which is an amazing place for mountain weddings. And I will talk about later how you do not have to live in somewhere like Colorado to be an elopement photographer, because I see that question all the time, all over the place. So I will get to that, guys, I promise, because there's so much more opportunity than people realize for elopements, and it's not just for people who live near Yosemite or Colorado or Iceland, guys. Like, that's great if you do, but if you don't, it's not a lost cause. It's not a lost cause, I will tell you. So, but lucky for me, I did live in Colorado, and, the weddings that I was shooting, like a lot of them had kind of, I had the opportunity to take some really cool kind of outdoor mountaintop portraits. I mean, they were at big mountain wedding venues, but the images themselves were of just the couple in a mountainous landscape. So like that was part of what my portfolio included that's part of what my portfolio included at the time. And like, that was a huge piece of me, of a couple from Texas finding me, Googling around stuff related to Colorado weddings. And, I had been blogging, I had been doing a little bit of work on my SEO. I didn't know a ton about it then. And, not anywhere, but I learned, studying digital marketing in college. But I had some, and they had found my site, saw, some of the outdoor mountainous images that I had taken, and figured, good, this girl can probably do this. So they called me up. It was 3 weeks before they wanted to elope. So they brought, I think 7 of their friends/family members up from Texas, and wanted to elope in the mountains. So they said hey, we're coming to Colorado. We don't really know where we want to go, but you're a local, there's a few photos of, your profile picture on your site is you in the mountains. So maybe you're adventurous. You want to help us find a place for us to elope. And I was like, yes, absolutely. Heck yeah, I will find you the most amazing place to elope. You just watch. I'm going to spend the next 3 weeks finding you the most amazing place to have your elopement. So I did. I started with the location and kind of with the location scouting, kind of the planning aspect of being an elopement photographer from the very first time that I photographed an elopement. I found that part super exciting, super fulfilling, the opportunity to be so creative in a way that wasn't just, you know, showing up and being kind of a cog in the machine feel, which is how I felt a little bit about photographing big weddings. But I didn't know any different. I didn't know the difference. I hadn't had the experience of being I hadn't had the experience of being part of an elopement yet. And so I, you know, didn't know any different. So, but then I did. That day, that photographing that very first elopement totally changed my life. I found this amazing place for this couple to elope in Rocky Mountain National Park. You know, I had shot a lot of weddings by then, probably not quite 100, but I'd shot, I don't know, probably I made at least 50 by that point, maybe more. And I was 21, 22, something like that. And I, you know, and so so from my experience photographing big weddings, and then having this experience of being a part of an elopement, which was just so wildly different than any wedding day that I'd ever been a part of. It was a day where like the couple just exuded like peace and calmness and being relaxed and stress-free and not being worried about a damn thing, and being just so relaxed and feeling like they were totally free to be themselves. And as personally, as an introvert, I was just amazed. I was astonished. I was just in shock with how cool it was to get married this way, with just the people that you are very, very closest to you, who love you, who know you, who are your best friends, who your family members that love you and support you. And, you know, and then that piece, that intimacy and that meaning surrounded and wrapped all in like, this incredible environment. You know, the fact that it was outdoors and in the mountains and adventurous also piqued my interest because of who I am, and because of what I like to do. And having grown up here in Colorado and loving hiking, like that spoke to me a lot. I feel like the most myself personally in nature and being outdoors, which is why I like outdoor adventurous elopements like really speak to me. And so it was just everything that I could have ever dreamed of. And I made the decision, I made the commitment after I photographed that very first elopement that I was going to figure out how to find a bunch more people like this couple, and you know, and not even just sit back and wait for couples who wanted to elope to come to me, but really just to go out and like tell the world how awesome eloping is. Because I thought, man, if people knew about this, if people knew more, like that there's an alternative way, that there's a way for, you know, people who may be more introverted, who may not like being the center of attention, who don't like to plan a huge 200-person party, who like the stuff and everything that comes along with a big wedding, like doesn't connect to them at all. And you know, like, so at that point, I just decided, you know, hey, if I'm going to do this as a full-time career, like it's hard enough being a business owner, like, and like really in order for this to really be worth it, I have to love what I'm doing, and I have to love the couples that I am working with and feel just as fulfilled as I felt today photographing this very first elopement. So I committed, I made that decision. It was a, you know, elopements or bust decision for me. And that was key, that commitment, that diving head first, that, you know, that persistent, you know, just, you know, that persistent, possibly slightly delusional, just like determination that I was going to be an elopement photographer, I think was a huge key in me, you know, making the decisions that then led to me becoming a successful elopement photographer. So that is how I got into elopements. I took those images from that very first elopement. I applied all of my my skills around marketing. I properly leveraged those images. And what do I mean by that? I still didn't have an Instagram at this point, PS. So Instagram has made life a lot easier. But I didn't have an Instagram at this point. I'm like that shy and introverted. I was like, oh gosh, like I do not want to have an Instagram. Like that's just no. So what did I do though? Like I already, you know, knew quite a bit about SEO. And so I blogged that very first elopement, keyworded it, properly optimized my site and that blog post towards more elopement-centered keywords. I put that blog post on Pinterest, and I started churning that, had that the right keywords, got those pins optimized, and they started getting shared around on Pinterest. When you Googled, you know, Rocky Mountain National Park elopement that year, or Colorado elopement, like around that time, there was, you know, at the beginning, like not a ton of photographers in that space. You know, my images were just popping up as the #1 for search results. And I got 30 elopement bookings for the following year based on photographing that first elopement and rebranding my entire site. I did a really, I did a really catastrophic rebrand, and I went and I just dove headfirst right in to only elopements and intimate weddings. And so that and several other strategic steps that I took transitioned me from photographing 100% elopements to, 100% big weddings to 100% elopements within about 12 to 18 months, depending on how you look at it. So that's just like basic overview of like, how did I get to doing what I do? I have learned a lot more about strategy and a lot more about how to get elopement inquiries and bookings and create amazing elopement experiences for people, and like, who are people that elope? What is their psychology? What are they driven by? What motivates them? How do you find them? How do you target them? How do you do cross-marketing with them? Like, how do you get those elopement inquiries? I have learned a lot more than I knew when I first transitioned. If I was doing it all over again, I would probably do it differently, and it would be a lot easier. So that insight and in that knowledge is like what I teach on now, and the strategies that I use now, which I think this month we'll probably get over 70 elopement inquiries in our inbox. So there's a lot of super good marketing strategies and tools to get those inquiries, guys. So anyway, go through my outline here. So talked about my story, kind of how I transitioned and how I just first got started photographing elopements. So, again, I just want to like sidestep really quick and just talk about like, what is an elopement? Let's just like back up here for a second for people who are just like, can you even explain what an elopement is? Sure. So the thing is if you Google like what an elopement is, if you Google like a definition for an elopement right now, what you'll find is, let me find it, is that eloping is the act of running away secretly to get married. So that's still what it says if you Google elopement and you look at the definition of an elopement. So the interesting thing is that the world has changed a lot in the last 5 years since I started photographing elopements. If you look at Google Trends for the word elopement over the past 5 years, the graph looks like this. It's like the worldwide interest for the word elopement has quadrupled in the past 5 years, which is super exciting. It's like doubled twice. So it's literally quadrupled, guys. So there is more knowledge and like more opportunity for elopements now than there ever has been. And I think 2020, you know, if you look at the trends and look what's going on, look at just how many people in general plan to get married in 2020 because it's 2020, and people like cool wedding dates. Like 2020 has the opportunity to be just the most incredible year for elopements yet. So, but what is an elopement? The cool thing that I've seen about the definition of elopements and how that's changed over the past 5 years, if people have learned more and more about them, is that the definition is actually changing. So, you know, that's true about any language, but particularly the English language is like words change meaning over time. And like words can be, when words start being used to describe something over and over that's different than the dictionary definition, what happens is the dictionary actually changes what the word means because the meaning of it has changed, and dictionaries are always trying to match like what the colloquial like use of the word actually is. So the cool thing is that if you like start searching like in Wikipedia and different dictionaries for the word like elopement online, you'll see a lot of people starting to talk about what a modern elopement is, which is meaning like what does a 2019, 2020 elopement look like? What does an elopement mean now in 2020? Because it doesn't mean the same thing that it meant back in the 50s. And what it, you know, and so what it means is how I've defined an elopement for my own business and for, like trying to get at like, what is this type of wedding day that I'm so intrigued and enthralled by? Like, what is it? What is an elopement? So I've defined an elopement as an intentionally small, intimate, meaningful, and authentic wedding experience that is a true reflection of your relationship, where the focus of the day is really about the two of you. So I think that the difference between an elopement and a wedding is about intention and focus. Is the day about everyone else? Is it about your guests? Is it about pleasing your family members? Is it about all of these other things that have to do with a big wedding and nothing to do actually with you saying your vows and your relationship and the two of you and it being authentic to the two of you? Then I think that day is defined as a wedding. If the day is really about the two of you, if the focus of it really has been boiled back down to those most important keys of like, what is a wedding day? It's a day that two people who love each other say their vows and commit the rest of their lives to each other. That's like boiled down the definition of like what a wedding day is, which in essence is like what an elopement is. So I don't think that there's like a hard line of like a person count of like 19 and under is an elopement, 20 and more is a big wedding, because I've been at wedding days where there were 20 people there, where it was for sure an elopement, hands down, had the exact same vibe, intimacy, feel, intention, exactly like an elopement day. It was stress-free, intimate, meaningful. The focus of it was purely about the couple. They just happened to have 18 of their friends there who were all there to just support and celebrate. None of them stole focus. None of them made the day about them. And it was their elopement day that happened to have some witnesses there. And then I've been at 20-person wedding days that felt just like a 200-person wedding, felt, just as stressful. There was like 2 planners and, 15 out of those 20 people were the wedding party, and it was huge bridesmaid groups of a party. And not that that's, technically defining the fact that it was a wedding, but it was the intention of the day. It was all of the same stressors, all of the same distractions, all of the same, the couple not getting a moment together at all on their own wedding day. And it felt just like a big wedding. So when I say elopement, what do I mean? I mean an intimate wedding day. For us, it's generally around 2 to 20 people, where the focus of the day is about the couple. Like that's what the modern term of elopement is starting to mean. So yes, you could technically call an elopement also maybe a small destination wedding, small intimate wedding, small adventurous, outdoorsy wedding. All those things can be what you call an elopement. But I want to be clear here is that elopements, 1, don't have to be outdoors. 2, do not have to be in an epic spot in any way. And I think it's just a huge misconception that people only elope in Iceland and in Colorado and on the West Coast. People are eloping everywhere, just like people get married everywhere. And if you look at the reasons that people want to elope, which I've actually, looked, I actually did a huge survey on all of these reasons. I asked over 200 couples, like, why did you guys elope? Because I wanted to know, like, what are the actual reasons that are like driving people to have this type of intimate, meaningful wedding day versus a big wedding day? And what are those reasons? Number 1, first of all, is couples want a just us experience. They want an experience that is truly about the two of them. And a lot of couples feel that big weddings don't do that for them, that big weddings are no longer about the couple, that they're about everything and everybody else. 2, couples want authenticity. That's like the second biggest reason why couples elope, is they don't feel like a big wedding and that whole charade, that whole parade is like authentic to them. It wouldn't be authentic to me in the slightest. Like I cannot imagine myself having a big wedding. And there's a lot of couples who get engaged and are just like trying to plan and realizing like nothing that I create about this picture, no matter how I change the colors or the location or whatever, nothing about it is feeling quite right. So maybe I've been engaged for like 2 years and like still haven't made any plans because I can't figure it out. It's just not us. It doesn't feel right. It's not authentic. 3, people want something that's intimate and intentional. 4, they're looking for something with less family drama. I totally have a lot of family drama in my life. I mean, it's not so dramatic anymore. I haven't talked to my parents in 2.5 years. There's just a lot of history there. You know, I grew up in a violent, abusive, alcoholic home, and, you know, there's just no way I could have my parents at my own wedding, guys. Like, I wish it was different, but it's just not. Like, I don't have like loving, supportive parents who would be safe to invite to my own wedding ceremony. And, you know, it's not just me that feels like that. Like, a lot of people have complicated families. It's not the only reason that people love. Not everyone who elopes is like not close to their family. I actually think a lot of couples who are extremely close to their families love eloping, because they, instead of having their family members that they love and care about so much kind of diluted among, you know, 200 other people that they don't know as well and aren't as close to, like, they get to spend like all of their time just with the people that know them the most and care about them the most. Like, elopements can be amazing for super family oriented people. Number 5, couples elope because they value experiences over stuff. And I love this because I think there's a big myth around that couples elope because they don't have the budget for a big wedding, and they're cheap, and therefore they won't pay for photography. That's not true. That's not true at all. I have a whole nother video about how to price elopements where I go into tons of like elopement pricing myths, which I like go on a nice long rant about that. So watch that one. That one's super, super good. You know, couples don't want stress and anxiety. That's another reason that they elope. They don't want too much planning. They don't like being the center of attention. And they like the idea of just starting their life together with just this new adventure, with just planning a day that's just about them. This awesome adventure that they're going to remember forever. And that's how they want to start their marriage. Number 10, actually, a lot of couples elope because they care a lot about photography, and they feel like there will be more space for that and for it really being awesome on an elopement day that's a lot slower paced and low key versus just this, you know, back to back to back tight timeline type of wedding day. So those are the reasons that people elope, guys. So going back to the fact that elopements don't have to be out, they don't have to be outdoors. They don't have to be in a crazy destination. None of that defines what an elopement actually is. An elopement is a day that is intentionally meaningful and about the couple themselves. And because couples are looking for authenticity and looking for meaning and looking for something that is intimate and intentional, like, that doesn't necessarily mean Iceland or Yosemite. Like, that's just one piece of it. That's just, you know, for couples who are on the more outdoorsy, adventurous side. But there are just as many types of couples who want to elope as there are couples who want to have types of big weddings. So think about this, saying like, saying I can't be an elopement photographer because I don't live next to a popular elopement destination is like saying I can't be a wedding photographer because I don't live next to this particular venue. Like, it's just not true. People are eloping everywhere. You know, there are just as many people who want to elope in their favorite brewery or their backyard or the open space near their house with their dog, like the place that they met. Like, you can absolutely slay it as an elopement photographer if you're in a big city or, you know, a small knit community or, you know, a non-wilderness crazy scenery destination. You know, like, more than half the couples that I photographed, that I photographed elopements were initially planning and considering a big wedding. So actually, if you think about that, that means a lot of our bookings are coming from people who wouldn't have necessarily identified themselves as eloping couples from the beginning. They were a couple getting married who wasn't, for whatever reason, quite connecting to the idea of a big wedding. And in some way, through our strategic marketing channels, like, came across that there's the idea of another way. And you can do that no matter where in the world you live. You don't have to be in Colorado. You have to be on the West Coast. You don't have to be in the US, guys. I've been watching the trends of Europe and Australia and South Africa and New Zealand, those other places in the world that elopements are really starting to kind of bubble up. You guys are just about like 3 or 4 years kind of behind the US on like this big elopement trend, but it's coming. It is happening. Honestly, it's probably the best time to get into elopements, especially if you're in Europe, Australia, those kind of places, because they are about to blow up, guys. Like, seriously, they are. Like, you look at it, you look at the data, you look at the trends, like, it is coming. It is freaking coming, guys. So it does not matter where you live. You don't have to live in an epic spot. So I won't say that living in Colorado has had zero effect on my business. Of course it has. Like, of course it has. But it has had an effect on my business because it is in alignment with my particular type of couples that I like to work with who are having outdoor adventurous elopements. That is not the only type of elopement, is what I'm trying to say though, guys. So, okay, so let's get to what are the 4 keys to becoming an elopement photographer. So we've gone over my story. We've gone over what an elopement is, why people elope, like that an elopement isn't just defined as an outdoor destination, adventurous, like elopement. I added like 3 adjectives there, guys. Like there's just as many type of elopements as there are type of weddings. You can make a successful career as an elopement photographer, like in so many different places in the world, and you can work on being, you know, your local elopement evangelist that like brings the idea of elopements to your small town, and you're like probably the only elopement photographer, so it's a freaking blue ocean there. Or maybe you're someone who lives in an area and maybe you don't want to shoot around where you live, that you want to be traveling, that you want to be shooting those amazing destinations that everyone else is shooting, because that is in alignment with like what you love and who you are and your values as a person. And if that is the case, like absolutely you can travel for elopements too. There are so many people who either don't live in one set geographic location, so they don't have the benefit of like that local, you know, cash cow for an elopement location, or two, there are several very successful elopement photographers in the Midwest who like never shoot locally to where they are at all, and are being flown around everywhere. Really quick tip on like how to be that person, like, you know, how to get hired to travel to an amazing elopement destination versus them hiring someone local. So 1, you should absolutely be rolling your travel fees into your pricing. Do not put it on top of your rates. You need to have one price that includes your service and your travel. Check out the How to Price Elopements video. There's like a lot more information about that and why that's super key if you want to get hired if you want to get hired to travel. And 2 is develop expertise and give value. That is how you get hired over local people, because besides price, putting price aside, check out the How to Price Elopements video. The other reason that someone might hire someone local over someone who is traveling and is if the local person can convince them that they have more expertise and can deliver more value. And that comes down to, you know, how you get on the phone with couples, like how much do you help them in the process, how much you are willing to give, and how much you can communicate your own expertise. And so that comes down to confidence and commitment, and, you know, a heck of a lot of research. Like if you get a Glacier National Park elopement inquiry and you've never been to Glacier National Park and you really want to book this one, do so much research on Glacier National Park. Like spend several hours on Google Maps, on Google Earth, on AllTrails. You know, scour the national park website, like study the map of it, learn one-way roads, learn road closures, learn all the little ins and outs and the quirks of that particular park. When you get on the phone with that couple, show off all of your knowledge, be able to say, hey, did you know this? Did you know, the Going to the Sun Road closes at this date in October most years? So I know you were thinking October, but actually, you know, you should, you know, really think about that. Maybe all the cool spots that you're like imagining for your elopement might not be there. Like give value, show off your expertise, like answer couples questions, even questions that they didn't even know that they asked. Like that's another great tip of how to get hired over a local if you don't live in one of those amazing elopement destinations. So cool, quick little actionable tip, guys. So, all right, I'm bouncing around here a lot, but I'm trying to fit so much in a short amount of time, and I'm already like 40 minutes in. So I'm gonna get through this, guys. So 4 keys to becoming a successful elopement. So 4 keys to becoming an elopement photographer. You know, it's kind of like a 4-fold strategy. And I think all 4 of these pieces have to be working individually and together to make this work. Because if you can't do any one of these 4 things, it's going to be very difficult to photograph elopements, basically. So first and foremost is having a really clear and strong brand and brand message. So in order to magnetize eloping couples, you need to have a message that is resonating with couples who elope. And I think that a lot of photographers, especially if we kind of just live in our little Instagram bubbles, and if maybe the bubble of this particular Facebook group, it might feel like everyone knows what elopements are, you know, like no one's confused, no one's confused about it. Everyone knows that it's an option. No, they don't. It's absolutely not true. Go talk to some people who aren't photographers, who, you know, aren't on your Instagram feed, and tell them like, hey, I'm an elopement photographer, and see how many confused looks you get, because most people still don't know what the heck an elopement is. And that's not a downside, guys. I know like that, like it's an opportunity, it's a challenge and an opportunity that is like so exciting if you really look at it, because it's like a person who doesn't know about elopements, if you're the one who tells them, if you're the one that like brings that to them and it's good news for them, it's a big sigh of relief if you are the person that gets your message across to an engaged couple saying, guess what? You don't have to have a big wedding. Like if it's not for you, if it doesn't connect with you, like, you know, let's talk about maybe an alternative that like would be an amazing way for you to get married. Like that is like irreplaceable value. Like that is like nearly a slam dunk. Like they're ready to book you right away if like you're the person who like brings that news to them. Like I can't tell you how many couples have said that to me and then hired me like immediately, saying like, literally we were just like struggling, you know, Googling stuff furiously or just browsing Instagram because we were frustrated in this wedding planning process, and something you said in your Instagram caption or something you wrote in this blog post or something I read on your site when I landed on it just, you know, gave me this hope that there was another way to get married. And so the fact that someone doesn't know about elopement, you can see that as a downside. I see it as a super exciting opportunity, which is why, like, you know, it was so cool, like being here, you know, so which is why it was so exciting, like 5 years ago when no one knew about elopements, then just see that explode and more people know about them now. And it's just like virally increasing, guys, and it's happening all over the world. So it's like what was happening in the US like 4 years ago is happening in Europe now. Like, so again, it's about to blow up. So having a really clear brand message, and this goes a lot into figuring out why you do what you do as a photographer. You know, like something more than just, I like the outdoors and I like mountains, so therefore I'm an elopement photographer. Like you can go deeper than that, guys. There is a deeper meaning for why your purpose in life is to photograph people, how you're gonna change your little corner of the world and like bring your unique spark of genius and like feel fulfilled by what you're doing by being a photographer. And it's deep. It's a deep reason. Like my reasons go super deep for why I'm an elopement photographer. Like I believe that couples deserve to have a safe space to say their vows, because for me, a big wedding with my family there would freaking not be a safe space, guys. So it goes deep. And so, you know, really exploring and figuring out your why as a photographer and like what's authentic and meaningful to you, and like, and being able to talk from the heart, that is a huge piece of creating an irresistible elopement brand. And so, you know, why do elopements mean something to you? Why do you want to photograph elopements? You know, why do you care about them? And go beyond the surface level reasons of I'd like to travel, I'd like to be in the outdoors. Like actually why? Like actually really think it through, actually really dig deep and really figure it out. There are a lot of exercises which I go into in my course of like how you figure out that why. If you've never read the book Start With Why or Find Your Why by Simon Sinek, it's a super good thing to check out. You know, the best marketing messages isn't really talking about how great you are. It's about talking about a brand message that's like bigger than you, something that couples who come to your site can connect with on like a beliefs, values, and like why level. And the key here really is authenticity. And it's, you know, elopements in our little sphere may feel like they're really trending hard right now. And like they are, but you know, just copying someone else's brand, copying someone else's brand message, and for like their reason why they do why they do what they do is never going to give you the level of commitment and knowing why you do what you do, which is not gonna, you're not gonna be able to convince other people to elope if you don't know why you care about elopements. So that's super, super key. You can't miss that. Like the ones who are gonna last as elopement photographers are doing this for authentic reasons. You know, they are creating a brand that's real and like rooted in their true beliefs and are in alignment with the couples that they actually want to connect with. And so the couples you want to connect with doesn't have to be the same kind of couples that I connect with. I mean, it probably isn't if you're really being honest and authentic with yourself. And so once you have that branding and marketing, like your brand and your brand message, that's the foundation of all of your marketing. You figuring out what is that thing that makes you special, which is very connected to why you do what you do. Figuring out those two keys, that is like absolutely fundamental to creating your own irresistible elopement brand. So, and if you feel like couples who are eloping are coming to your site and they're not contacting you, it's probably because your brand message isn't coming across clearly in your site, or your brand message just isn't a brand message that is attractive to eloping couples. So check out those reasons why people elope. I have a blog post about that on my site, and like think about like, why do you think elopements are great, and like what reasons, on what like core value reasons can you connect with eloping couples on, and then why, like what from your history or your past, or like what do you believe that is like bringing you to that point. So that's number one key, is a brand, really strong, clear, cohesive brand and brand message. So 2 is a marketing plan, is like getting your stuff and your work in front of eloping couples, because you can have the best images, the best brand message, best brand in the world, and still no one will hire you if they don't know about you. So clearly, and this is the question I think most people have about how to get into elopements, is how do you actually get elopement inquiries? So, and that just requires a marketing plan, guys. Like, it is not voodoo. It is not magic. It is science. It is like very clear. There are 4 marketing channels that are the most successful for getting elopement inquiries. I'm gonna, in a sec, give some tips about how to start with this, you know, versus like, this is like a full-fledged marketing plan, which I go over in the whole course. And it comes with like a 90-day marketing action plan to take you from getting 0 inquiries to getting elopement inquiries within 90 days. And it is working, guys. It is working. There are like so many people in the VIP group right now getting their first elopement inquiries, and it makes me so excited. But so 4 best channels for elopement inquiries. SEO, people who are eloping are planning their own weddings. They're Googling tons of stuff to try to figure out what they are doing. Finding the right keywords and then optimizing your site to rise in the ranks for those keywords. Hands down, best organic marketing strategy for getting consistent elopement inquiries in your inbox. Absolutely awesome. Work on your SEO. 2 is Instagram. So I didn't have an Instagram at all when I started and when I first transitioned to elopements, but I very quickly realized there was a big need for one. And so I started my Instagram fall of 2016. So about 3 years ago. So that was kind of after I had first transitioned. So that was after I had transitioned. I was pretty much shooting only elopements, by that time. So, Instagram is huge. Growing an account is, you know, it isn't, you know, the algorithm is rough sometimes, but at the end of the day, the way to do well on Instagram is just like the way to do well on any kind of other marketing platform, which is posting consistent quality content that is valuable and engaging, and then engaging. And because Instagram is a social platform, there's so many ways you can like strategically engage with people to get your work, like, you know, to hand someone your business card basically digitally and say, hey, like, I've found you, versus this via this strategic engagement strategy, like, here's my stuff. So, you know, by scrolling through certain hashtags, certain geotags, you know, people who are interacting with other types of accounts in like cross industries. You can find people who would be very likely to be interested in what you are doing, you know, like their photos, comment on their photos, follow them, you know, and engage with them and give them value. And a lot of those people might hire you. I have booked several elopements that way via Instagram. And that's kind of like a behind the scenes strategy that you may not even necessarily see by just looking at someone's account. So 3, Pinterest, super great for planning elopements, just like it's super great for people planning weddings. It's an awesome wedding planning tool. And as elopements are something that people are planning more and more, it's becoming like definitely an up and coming awesome platform for getting elopement inquiries. I wasn't utilizing that one for a while, but now it brings, I don't know, between 5 and 10 elopement inquiries to us per month, which is great, super huge, and it's all automated too. So, and then 4 is Facebook advertising. And I know grown Facebook ads don't work. False, they do. It just depends on what type of ads you are running and who you're running them to. So there's some great strategies around Facebook ads. That's not a topic I can possibly dive into in an hour-long video, but I'm gonna like shout out my friend Max here, who's a Facebook ads expert, and he has a group called Marketing for Wedding Pros. If you want to watch like 12 hours of Facebook ad videos, like join his group because he's sweet and he'll always know more about Facebook ads than I do. And so marketing channels, you have to get your stuff in front of people. And I can seem really overwhelming to be like, I know I have to do all of these things, but like, where do I start and how do I do it? That comes down to figuring out a marketing plan. I'm also a big fan of content recycling. And what does that mean? That means, for example, this is just a real quick little tidbit of like content recycling, guys. Okay, so you do one shoot. Like, what can you do with that one shoot? You should blog about it. You can blog about it as a story, as a like story of images and story of the couple and that day. That's one angle. You can blog about it in a more effective way and actually give value to the person who is reading that post. Let's say it was a styled shoot in a slot canyon in Arizona. You can, you know, instead of just saying like slot canyon Arizona elopement, you can say like, you know, 5 tips you might not have thought of for your slot canyon elopement, or like, here are all the best slot canyons in Arizona. You know, something that is going to give someone value, teach someone something. Like, blog about it in different ways, guys. Think about stuff that people would be Googling when they're trying to figure stuff out, and write a post that solves their problem. Boom, you're giving them value. They feel indebted to you. They feel grateful. They are, you know, that's the reciprocity principle. That's the like, oh my gosh, like I just got so much value out of this post. And I haven't even paid for anything. So I wonder how much value this person is going to give me when I actually hire them. I got to contact them. So, so this is still for just that one shoot. Then it's like, okay, get onto Pinterest and schedule all the pins from both of those blog posts, get those automated, set up in your queue via Tailwind to, you know, start Pinteresting around. Plan out 10 different Instagram posts over the next 3 months from those images from that blog. And then run Facebook ads to one or both of those blogs to A/B test with different images and different headlines and different audiences, and drive more traffic to that blog that's giving people value. That's kind of a shortcut to getting people to your site if you don't have enough organic traffic yet. Like, this is just like a little snippet of like the stuff that I go over in the marketing plan in the Elopement Photographer course, of just like, how do you best leverage when you have very small amounts of stuff to leverage, which is where most people start when they're trying to transition over to elopements or start an elopement photography business. So marketing plan, super key. You have a plan, you have a strategy. That way you don't have to just like feel overwhelmed every day by how many platforms there are and how much stuff you have to do. You know, week by week, these are the things that I need to do, and this is how I'm going to be the most efficient with my marketing. Because, you know, versus like looking at each platform individually and reduplicating and doing, you know, work over and over again, where you could just be much more efficient across all platforms if you do content recycling. So that's number 2, super key. So we have a brand and brand message. We have a marketing plan that gets you inquiries. 3, super important, don't miss this step. It might seem like it's kind of connected to the marketing plan, but it is a separate, is making sure that when you get those inquiries, you have a really good system in place to convert those inquiries into actual full price bookings with contracts and retainers. So this goes into your initial emails. This goes into your follow-up sequence. This goes into your phone calls. I have a super good video here. I have two really good videos in this group, guys. One about how to design an effective pricing guide, because that's something that can make or break you turning an inquiry into a booking. Two, how to write initial inquiry emails that aren't going to get you ghosted. So there's like two full-length videos on that, guys. So check those out. In the Elopement Photographer course, there's my entire phone call strategy. There's 4 different recorded phone calls. It is like a script. It goes over exactly like, how do you seal the deal? How do you get someone who is coming to you saying like, I think I maybe just want a few hours. How do you like turn that around, show them how amazing it could be to have this incredible experience. And a really good tip here is to just like paint them a picture of their day. Tell them like, hey, your elopement is so much more than just a set of vows and some photos. And I think this message is best delivered by phone for sure, because people can hear the passion and the conviction in your voice. And you have to be passionate and you have to be convicted for this to really work. So saying, you know, you two right now, just take a second and just look at each other for me. And I want you to just, without saying anything, in your mind, I want you to think of the best possible day for the two of you, from the time you got up to the time you went to bed. When you got up, like, what would the weather be like outside? What scenery would you see looking out the window? What would you want to do first? What would you want to eat for breakfast? Like, what would you be excited to do next? What would you want to go and see and do? What kind of adventures would you want to have together that day? Where would you want to explore? Or, you know, what is your favorite type of day as a couple together? What day could you dream of that you could look back on and say, oh my God, that was the most incredible day of our entire lives. I will literally never forget it. I just didn't want it to end. I wish I could relive it over and over. That, and, you know, and some point in that day, you will be in a place that is meaningful, that is beautiful, and that is authentic to you guys. And you will say your vows, and you'll have an amazing experience of getting married, and then you'll be stoked and you'll want to celebrate it. And like, that whole day is your wedding day, is the day that you get married, and you deserve just as much documentation of that whole amazing story as anyone else having a big wedding, because your day is just as important and it matters. And I see so much more for you guys than just an hour of 2 of portraits and some vows. Like, you know, your wedding day is more important than that. I think you guys are more important than that. That creates tons of cognitive dissonance for people, because then if they go back and say like, oh, so I want 1 or 2 hours, that's basically them saying, I don't care about my wedding day, which maybe some people don't, but I'm telling you, that's just a little slice of my phone call strategy that's just absolute gold. So, you got to turn inquiries into bookings. You have to have efficiency in that process, and you got to get people from inquiring with you to signing contracts and getting retainers as quickly as possible. Strike while the iron is hot, guys. So number 4, and this is so important. Like, do not miss number 4. And honestly, number 4 might be the thing you need to do first, which is getting actual knowledge and expertise that is going to enable you to take these couples who have now booked you for elopements and give them an incredible elopement experience. And so if you can't follow through on what you've promised on your site and your Instagram captions and your brand on the phone call with a couple, then you really shouldn't be doing this. So if that's not you yet, if you don't have the experience yet, get experience, get knowledge, get expertise. You have to be able to follow through. And so, you know, what kind of knowledge and skills do you need to acquire? This depends so much actually on what you figured out back in step 1. And these aren't steps. These are simultaneous requirements. They all 4 have to be working together. So, you know, back at the beginning, we talked about brand message and figuring out who you are and who your target market of couples that you are going to be the best to serve and are going to be served best by you, figuring that out. You know, if you figure out that, like, you know, traveling destination, adventurous couples, you know, similar to the target market that I photograph, if that is for you, you need to have travel experience. You need to do some traveling before you can ethically implore someone to hire you to travel around the world to photograph their elopement. You know, don't use people's real wedding days as a portfolio building opportunity. There's so many better ways to portfolio build. I've talked about that a ton in this group. There's a really awesome video called that's all about portfolio building, so check that one out too. So there's like so much value here, guys. You can kind of watch these videos and get tons and tons of information. You know, if you are wanting to do like snowshoeing and skiing elopements, you should probably go get avalanche certified. You know, if you want to do underwater elopements, like you should probably get scuba certified, you know, like, if you want to shoot like New York City elopements, you probably need to know the city pretty darn well. So go exploring, go learn the things that you need to learn to then be able to get on a phone call with a couple and confidently showcase your expertise to them. It's not something that you can just fake, that you can just pull out of thin air. It requires research. It requires experience. It requires going and doing. And so I had traveled to, you know, probably 15 countries before I got hired to photograph my first destination elopement. And how did I get hired for that one? I got on the phone with a couple who loves to travel, and we talked about how much we love to travel and our travel experiences. That's not something that I can just magic out of thin air. You don't have to travel to 15 countries. Like, let me get that straight. You know, a lot of people love to travel and have all the skills and like are the right type of person to figure out travel logistics and just haven't had the opportunity to. But I would definitely like, if you want to travel for elopements, definitely just get some traveling under your belt. There's just no real substitute for experience. And same goes with the photography side. And so I would say that there's, you know, as far as experience goes, there are really, you know, like 4 types of things to really get experience. And these are just really brand dependent. And so I would like hands down suggest getting real wedding experience. Experience shooting with outdoor elements if you want to be working with couples outside. Experience like working at really intimate photo shoots with just couples, like intimate, meaningful photo shoots with just couples. And then 4, like experience traveling and shooting while you travel and like carrying your gear around and dealing with all of the logistics that come with traveling. So get real knowledge, get real expertise, know what gear that you need, make sure that you have the skills required to actually kill it for what you get hired to do. Learn how to location scout, learn how to build timelines, learn how to make sure that you have everything that you need to have yourself prepared and prepare your couple. If you're interested in hiking elopements, I have a whole video on like hiking elopement tips and tricks and gear and logistics. So that's super good too. So check that one out. And so authenticity and real experience matters here. And so being able to actually follow through and create a credible experience for couples, you know, starts with getting that experience. So those are the 4 keys to becoming an elopement photographer. And those are all 4 just like very, very important. I think it'd be very hard to be an elopement photographer without any one of those things. I think it's pretty irreducible complexity at that point. And so, okay, so we've gone over my story, gone over 4 keys to become an elopement photographer. I've already thrown in some great actionable tips to get started, but I'm gonna get more concrete here, guys, for people who are just like, okay, I still don't know where to start. Here we go. This is where you start, guys. So, I feel like I'm talking to really 2 types of people in this group, because these are also the 2 types of people that I created the elopement photographer course for. So there are people who are very new to all this, who don't have a lot of experience photographing anything or any kind of weddings or couples in general, who are on the newer photographer side. So I have tips for you on like where to get started. And I think the other set of people is people who have existing businesses. Maybe you're a traditional wedding photographer, maybe you do something else, but like you have a lot of the skills and the knowledge on the photography side, on the running a business side, but you haven't cracked this like elopement market yet. And those are what your biggest questions are surrounding. So like the course that I developed is for both of you. And yes, but let's go ahead and start with like, what are some places to get started and what are some tips for those two groups of people? So if you have no experience, like I've said, like I just went over, you need to get some experience. You need to do some shoots. You need to be practicing posing couples. There's just no substitute for real experience here. You can't do just one styled shoot and then be like, yep, I'm set. I can be, you know, a high volume elopement photographer. I am ready. You probably aren't. Like I would definitely get more experience first. So practice posing couples. Like the best way to do this is to set up super easy portfolio building style shoots. I've done an entire video about all of this. Styled shoots can feel like this real scary, complicated thing. They aren't. They really, really don't have to be. You can get one super, super cheap, you know, what's the word? You get one super cheap, oh my gosh, the word is a convertible wedding dress that, you know, will fit all different types and sizes of people. You can get really cheap wedding dresses on Amazon, on Lulu's, on Poshmark, on eBay. You know, buy them from other photographers, client wardrobes, or, you know, get them secondhand at a thrift store. There's so many easy ways to like just get that dress. And once you have a dress, it's way easier to, a lot of times like find a couple, like ask past clients, ask friends, ask family member, ask random strangers. I was telling the story the other day about, I was on a podcast talking about how I started building a destination elopement portfolio because I had this convertible wedding dress in my backpack. I was traveling by myself to Costa Rica, met a random couple on a beach, total strangers, asked them if they wanted some free photos on this beach, photographed them on the beach at sunset a couple of days later with the dress that I brought to Costa Rica. I made a bouquet by flowers I found in an abandoned lot growing up the side of a dumpster. And those photos still come up as #1 in Google image search if you Google Costa Rica elopement photographer. So it's like, it can be really simple and really easy. And so there's no shortcut to experience, but like getting that experience can be easier than you probably realize. So practice, do lots of shoots, work with couples, figure out your style of like helping people become comfortable in front of the camera. I have my own style, which I have put together in a course called the Permission Posing course, which I'm super stoked about. I love it. And so you can also do model calls. You can trade shoots with another photographer couple. There's so many great ways to practice. And like, yes, you can also go to workshops. You can also sign up to do styled shoots, but it's so easy to set up these things yourself, and you can craft them to be exactly how you want them to be, and that are going to be the type of images that are really going to be attractive to your target market. So actionable tips to get started: figure out your why, figure out your specific unique spark of genius of being a photographer. These things are like real big, important processes. Again, like a book I just love recommending to everyone is the book Start With Why. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, like that, you know, starts to dive into it really, really well. This whole like branding and figuring out your target market part is like the biggest, you know, it's the most foundational first part of the course. And then just start practicing, start getting experience. And like, sometimes it's really hard to figure out your why if you don't have a lot of experience. That experimentation phase, you know, that phase that I did between ages, you know, 12 and 17 of just photographing anything and everything helped me get to my why too. So sometimes it just takes some time to figure out like, what are you uniquely good at? What types of people are you the best to serve and who will be best served by you? And then start setting up shoots that are going to be super attractive and magnetizing. The images from them are like super in line with the target market that you are working towards trying to attract. Also, get real wedding experience. Like styled shoots and just couple shoots alone are not enough to have enough experience to photograph elopements, because elopements are not just glorified style shoots. They are someone's real wedding day. And so learning how to shoot, getting ready photos, first looks, ceremonies, families, toasts, stuff like that. Like all those things still happen at so many of the elopements that I am photographing, just like they did at big weddings. And so getting second shooting jobs, shoot for a ton of different types of wedding photographers. You'll learn so much. And if you can't get a second shooting job because you don't have a big enough portfolio yet, offer to free third shoot, or just come along as an assistant and just carry someone's light stand, whatever they need, you know, just like reach out to them and ask. They don't have to be an elopement photographer. A lot of elopement photographers just don't have the need for second shooters, and they need to keep their experience really intimate. That doesn't mean you can't get awesome experience and learn so much by second shooting for bigger, more traditional wedding photographers. And so again, like the four types of experience that I needed to get to a point where I can I can really confidently photograph outdoor adventurous elopement, outdoor adventurous destination elopements, was experience shooting real weddings, which I got as being a big traditional wedding photographer. And I second shot quite a bit when I was first starting. Experience shooting in the outdoors, shooting outdoor elements. If you're outdoorsy and you want to be shooting these awesome outdoorsy elopements, like go do those adventures with your friends and bring your camera and figure out how to work your gear in the elements. That's super important. Work on those, like having an experience of like crafting a really intimate space for couples to really be themselves. So do that with like shooting couples on your own, and really learning and really learning posing there. And then 4, learn how to shoot while traveling, what gear you need and don't need, and logistics of carrying it around and getting it on and off of planes and all that kind of stuff. Like it just takes practice and it takes some experience. I'm a huge fan of travel hacking. People are like, I don't have the opportunity to travel. Check out travel hacking. And there's so many blogs and so many resources out there, but just think like the basic concept is, barring having bad credit and not being responsible with credit, set that aside for a second. Cause I know it's like, this isn't an option for some people, but for a lot of people it is. And it really is just as simple as having the right credit cards that you just put your normal everyday business expenses, no extra money being spent, just put your normal everyday business expenses. It costs a lot to run a business, guys. And like, you think about the thousands of dollars you just spend to do what you do every year and buy new gear and maintain your site and all that kind of stuff. Get a hotel room after a wedding, whatever it is, you put them all on like the right types of credit cards, depending on how you want to travel, what airline you want to travel on, your travel style, etc. Everyone has their own little like group of cards that is going to be the best for them. You can get tens of thousands of dollars of free travel with like very little effort, maybe just keeping track of some stuff and making sure you pay them off every month. So I've gotten tens of thousands of dollars of free travel. That's how I've traveled most of the places that I've gone to, is not paying full price for plane tickets or hotels or anything. So side note. So that's a super, super great place to start if you have just no experience whatsoever. And then once you do, starting to come up with a marketing plan and starting to leverage those portfolio shoots, starting with your blog and your site and creating value-based blog posts, putting them on Pinterest, planning out Instagram captions, and then running targeted Facebook ads to those valuable blog posts. Man, you're going to get far. So, how to transition your brand. So if you're sitting over here being like, great, I know, like I have a lot of images, I don't need to portfolio build, I have a ton of experience, I know I have the skills to be an elopement photographer, but I don't know how to like start to crack this market. I'm just struggling with it. I would say that the issue is probably not your experience, it's probably your brand and your brand message. And I got a question I'm going to answer from the Facebook group about how do you get elopement inquiries if you're still relying on traditional weddings for like your income? And that's huge and that's key. And so I'm very unashamedly a huge fan and a big proponent of specializing, of niche marketing, of going all in with your brand, of actually committing there's so much research around, like, if you commit to something and you know, remove the other options, that you are going to come up with more ideas and be more creative and more ingenuitive and work harder at achieving your goal if you don't have one foot out the door, really. So, and that's the case for so many things in life, but it is true. Like, some people just are more comfortable with a slower transition, or more risk averse, and you can still get elopement inquiries, even if you are still relying on traditional weddings. But what I would do, instead of just really mixing your brand messages on your site, is, one, I would try to tone down, if you can, some of the images on your site that are really going to be a turnoff for eloping couples, to start off with, which might be a big wedding party, or just like a massive, like, chapel wedding, or whatever it is. You know, think about the type of elopements that you're trying to book, and what images on your site might really clash with that idea. There are a lot of images that would like images by themselves, that could very well attract great wedding clients and could attract elopement clients. And I'm of the opinion that you are going to have a much stronger brand if you're only trying to go after elopements. I'm a huge fan of specializing. I think that's a massive, massive key that has gotten to me to where I am. But if that's not for you, there are people who do both successfully. You know, they're likely not getting 70 elopement inquiries a month, but they are, you know, doing just fine. And so, so if you're aiming for a more slow transition because you're really worried about not getting enough big wedding inquiries, if you shift your site 100% right away and dive all in with elopements first off, then I would create like a separate, like a totally separate, like, landing page style just for elopements. So, you know, have your homepage talk about you, talk about things that are the same across, that would be the same for both target markets, that would appeal to both. It'll be a little bit watered down. It won't be as effective for your big wedding couples, and it won't be as effective for your eloping couples, but it won't be too bad. And then, you know, have people like go here for elopements and go here for weddings. And then on your weddings page, talk to couples who are having big weddings, have more images that are directly relevant to big weddings, and solve the problems of couples that might pop up when they have big weddings. And then on your elopements page, talk to eloping couples and have a brand message on that page that is true to you and authentic to you, and showcase images and solve the problems of couples who want to elope. And then, again, you know, work on the same kind of things that I suggested for photographers just starting out. Create valuable blog posts for eloping couples. You can run Facebook ads to them. Start talking about elopements on your Instagram. If you want to shoot elopements, you probably you probably shouldn't, you know, talk super negatively about elopements and how amazing big weddings are. And on the other side, if you still want to shoot big weddings, you probably can't be as polarizing as I am in my own brand around how I'm so gung-ho for elopements and like kind of raging against the big wedding machine a little bit. So yeah, but you can do a slow transition. I will say until I'm dead that it's more effective if you specialize and go on and commit. But it's not impossible. So again, so those are some really great starting off, like, actionable tips. And I'm already like an hour and 20 minutes into this, but like, I really wanted to give you guys like actual places to start here. And so, and so there's so much here to learn. I know it can feel really overwhelming. It felt overwhelming to me when I first started, and taking the time to invest in yourself, get more education, get more experience is just huge. And so again, I've put all of the knowledge that I have learned in the past 5 years of photographing hundreds of elopements now, and now my business, Adventure Instead, I have a marketing plan that supports 3 photographers to get those 70 elopement inquiries a month. We'll probably shoot 100 to 120 elopements. Like, and these aren't low budget elopements, guys. Like, we're averaging like $6,600 on average for elopement bookings for 2020. Most of them are 8 or 12 hours or more. And like, all of those strategies and everything that I've learned, everything I've gone over is in the elopement photographer course. I'm going to give you guys a cool little sneak peek of like like a sneak peek of inside the course. So that's cool. So I'm going to share my screen with you really quick. So this is the back end of the elopement photographer course. This is like what you would see if you decided to dive in and to enroll when this course relaunches, which will be November 26th to December 3rd. So you just gotta like enroll in that period. You don't have to watch it all in that period. It's a self-paced online course. These are all the videos that are in here, guys. Like this is how in-depth each one of these is. These videos are between like 40 minutes and an hour and a half long each. And so this whole section, and as you can see, this course is built around the 4 keys to being an elopement photographer. This whole first section is all about branding, exploring and discovering your own why, figuring out why it's important to specialize, and then how to specialize, all the exercises in order to define your target market, figuring out how to describe your brand, how to craft your brand message, figuring out how to price your elopements and develop your pricing guide, elopement portfolio building. Then how to get elopement inquiries. This is the biggest media section of the course. We go over what do you need to do on your site? How do you need to optimize it to get inquiries? How do you do SEO for elopements? A little bit different than for big weddings. People are Googling different things in different ways. And you know, how do you do Instagram for elopements and Pinterest and Facebook ads? And then how do you turn those inquiries into full price bookings with emails? And then this, I don't know, this is one of my favorite sections of the course. Is just like a secret sauce of like my phone call strategy and phone call script, and like 4 actual phone call recordings with clients that got booked. So then how do you actually back this all up with like real knowledge and expertise? Like what are the skills that you need to be able to create an unforgettable elopement experience? How do you design your whole workflow? What does an elopement timeline looks like? What about contracts, permits, insurance, backups? What about scouting for elopement locations? What about getting you and your couple prepared? And then this is super exciting, guys. So this is a behind the scenes video. And this is the video on the course that's available for free right now, guys, which is super exciting. So this is a full length video of behind the scenes of me photographing an all day elopement in Patagonia with an amazing couple. And I'm actually going to click on this and just like give you a teensy little preview. This is, oh yeah, it's like an hour and a half video. It's so amazing. And you'll feel all the feels with this video, guys. If you go to adventureinsteadacademy.com right now, you can sign up and like watch this video right here that I'm going to show you for free right now. And it will give you such a good taste for whether like elopements are for you and whether all the stuff that I talked about in this whole hour is going to be worth it, because it's going to be a dream career for you. So I'm just going to like skip through this video. Just give me like 10 seconds to just take a peek at this. It's so awesome. So this is, I headed to Patagonia back in March, had a videographer come with me. So this is, you know, kind of me shooting, this is some getting ready photos. This, you know, then they have this amazing first look. First look. Oh, this is their first look. Oh my gosh, this is it. This is the first look, guys. Oh man.
Yeah, it is. So I kind of weigh it down. Where do you want to put that? Here, so like kind of do the double rainbow.
This amazing rainbow popped out. It was just so cool.
2 seconds to set up and I'll wave at you and then you can watch it.
You can hear me talking. Here she comes. This is Becca and Jess's amazing elopement in Patagonia. Oh my gosh, it's so cool. So, and then it has the actual images that I took pop up throughout this whole thing, guys. So it really showcases the whole experience. It's just amazing.
That you walk and it's like, oh,
later in the day, kind of how I'm working with them, how I'm taking portraits of them.
Oh yeah, it's all like slicked back. It looks very swept.
Anyway, this video is super sweet. I'm gonna like cry if I watch it again, because honestly they're the best couple ever, and I just think it's a really cool way to give you like kind of the little sneak peek into like what does an elopement actually look like, and like our elopements for me. So that's what I'm trying to showcase. through that video. So check it out. It's free. If you go to adventureinsteadacademy.com right now, you can watch that video from the course for free. And then there's, 28 other videos in the course, guys, that you can get access to starting November 26th. So you just want to enroll in that period from November 26th to December 3rd if you want to learn so much more about what I talked about in this last hour. But I hope that I gave you guys some great actionable tips. Ariana said, I watched the behind the scenes video. Thank you so much. The video gave me life. It's totally worth it. Yes, it is. Thanks for the shout out, because honestly, that video is so good. So curl up on the couch and get some tissues, because it just make me cry just thinking about that elopement. So it's so great chatting with you guys today. I hope I answered some good questions about where do you get started in this whole field of adventure elopements. And I'm really excited to continue answering your questions in the group. And so if you have any questions about the course or anything else, always ask me. I'm here. I'm always hanging out. I'm always answering questions. I want there to be more elopement photographers in the world, guys. Honestly, there is going to be more and more and more people eloping. I'm not worried about competition, because this is not a finite space. It's not a finite market. There is so much opportunity here. And I want more couples in the world to be able to have that experience with the photographer that's going to come by their side and guide them through having an amazing wedding day experience for an elopement or an intimate wedding. And I'm really excited for you. I want you to succeed. So I'm here for you guys. Thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day. Thanks. Bye.